Hey, Nick.
Hey, Tys.
You sound a little different.
Got a bit of a cold.
Oh, is that all
Mate?
it is? Just a
Yep,
cold?
It's just a cold. That's all.
You sound like you may have changed sexes within the week.
Nah, doing all right.
No, still.
That's
Still.
absolutely not.
Hey.
Man.
I think the charade has lasted as long as it possibly can.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was my worst impression of Nick. Nick, I'm sorry. Are you going to listen to this?
He's
Probably.
definitely going to listen.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try something a little bit different. This might throw some some listeners off. Hey, Jemima.
Hi, Tyson.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, what a feminine voice I have.
Yes. Welcome.
I hope so.
Welcome to Nick Tyson Videotape, or this week, Jemima Tyson Videotape.
Oh, Jemima got first. I like that. Yeah.
Well, you
all
know,
right.
I don't get bumped up. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
It's a straight swap. We've got some very exciting news today.
Mm-hmm.
One half of Nick Tyson Videotape has just recently welcomed a new bubby into the world.
Yay!
So congratulations to Nick. We're very excited. We cannot wait to meet the little one. But the show must go on. So I'm very, very pleased to welcome Jemima back into the Nick Tice and Videotape headquarters. Hey, Jemima.
Thank you. We're in a different room today.
We are in a different room. This is the room that we refer to as my tax office.
Yeah, it looks like a tax office.
Yeah, because unfortunately we had grand plans for it to have a little bit more furniture and be slightly more of a warm environment, and instead you get the old television turned around.
Actually just a lot of stuff on the floor. But I dig it.
You dig it?
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Jemima, for joining us. It's very kind of you. We're going to have a chat today in honour of Nicholas's brand new bubby. We're going to talk about the movie Parenthood, 1989?
Yes.
Ron
I'm so
Howard,
excited.
Parenthood. This is apparently a favourite film of yours, isn't it?
It is.
It just kind of worked out as a fluke. I wanted something that dealt with, parenting or newborns or anything like that, and I gave you a list of stuff, and you just jumped at the chance of Parenthood.
And I hadn't even figured out the connection until I walked in the door and was like, Nick became a parent.
There you go.
Was he already a parent?
No, this is his first bobby.
Oh.
It's very exciting stuff. But before we get into any of that, I'm going to do the regular spiel that Nick does and see if I don't bugger it up. You can find us on anywhere that you find good podcasts. We're on TuneIn Radio. We're on Stitcher. You can definitely find us on iTunes, where you can rate and review. That would be very exciting if you could do that. Otherwise, you can also find us on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and all social media platforms except for Instagram.
Whoa.
And LinkedIn. Does anyone use LinkedIn?
How would you put an audio clip on Instagram? You can't even put can you put it, they call it a GIF or a GIF?
I
don't
call it
know.
a GIF.
Everyone calls it a GIF, but it's GIF. Is that
Is that
what we acknowledge?
Are we saying it's a hard G or a soft G?
I think it's a soft, but everyone just says GIF.
Right.
He gave up, the guy who made
Doesn't
them.
it stand for graphic?
Graphic?
Exactly. No, we'll find a way to make it work on Instagram. Maybe it'll just be nice photos of me and Nick.
Yeah, well, you do all
Various
those lovely
poses.
posters on Facebook. You
It's
could
true.
do that as
we do
an
find some
Instagram.
really excellent artwork, and
Yeah.
it's wonderful the things that you can find on the internet from very, very talented people doing up cool posters and things for films.
Yeah.
Jemima, what's been happening since you last joined us in HQ?
Okay, well, at the moment, I'm trying to raise money for a movie.
You are indeed.
Yes. Tyson was very gracious enough to let me plug the Possible campaign that I have running for the moment for my film called Stones. You'll be able to check that out on Possible if you search for films and you search for Stones short film, basically. But yeah, otherwise, if all of my social media is pretty much open, and if you go to Jemima Bucknell, unfortunately, everything everywhere is just covered in stuff about this film. So it'll be inescapable after you've listened to this, and I'm coming for your money. So just give it up so that I don't have to run you down.
Are we able to ask for a little bit of either background or anything, maybe like a brief synopsis, what you're trying to do with this film, or is that all on the hush-hush at the moment?
No, not at all. So the film is about a girl who starts dating a guy, and he leaves behind these stones that she then starts to collect, and she's not exactly sure whether or not they have something to do with her or to do with him. And so there's a mystery about them.
Right.
But also it's kind of just about how we might sort of consume or manifest certain things in order to cope with feelings that we don't really understand. And it's sort of about art and filmmaking a bit as well.
Cool.
Yeah. And I don't know, I have a previous film, but this is my festival entry film, and I have to do everything under certain codes of officiality that I might have made up the word officiality.
It sounded quite legit.
It sound legit. But yeah, so there are these avenues that I need to take in order to progress. And I'm like, fine, I'm going to go down this road, which I'm really excited to do.
Sure. And just for anybody who maybe doesn't understand the filmmaking process, I guess, what kind of if you, let's say we get all the money we need, huzzah, what kind of things does the money go towards?
Oh, okay. That's a good one. I had a list of that. I haven't read that off. I made this possible video like 3 or 4 months ago. But the money goes toward building some of the props that we need.
Yep.
We have to buy a lot of rocks. A lot of it is equipment hire and room hire for the sets that we
and none
need
of this
to build.
is cheap.
No, it really isn't. And particularly I want, like, it has to look so super professional. And so I need to be able to borrow this stuff. It'll be for a few days. We'll be doing these long shoots. I need to be able to feed and hydrate people. I need to hire a car to drive the equipment around.
Of course.
Because I only have a Vespa at the moment, because I gave my brother my car. This, and it broke down last night. So like I can't, I absolutely... I need the money.
You're the definition of the struggling artist, Jemima.
To facilitate this stuff. And I mean, and also even just like some of the rewards, I need to buy some materials for that. So it all, there's a lot more info on the possible page, but I pretty much reeled off what we're paying for.
Wonderful.
And,
Well, I'm going to make sure that we provide a link to that in the episode description. So if you'd like to get onto that and help out a friend of the podcast, Jemima, with her funding for a short film, I think that would be excellent.
Much.
We have a very wonderful bunch of people supporting our show, and I'm sure they would not hesitate to throw some cash your way.
Yeah, that was a very long spiel. And like even $10 is super amazing, particularly if I don't know who you are. But and I'm gonna thank you so hard.
Excellent. Hey, Jemima.
Hey.
Why don't we talk some trailers?
Everybody's talking
trailers.
Yay! Except that I just forgot the name of the film of the trailer. Hold on a second. Give me a sec.
It's coming
Mark
back.
Wahlberg. I haven't seen it. Oh, Daddy's Home 2.
Let's talk the trailer for Daddy's Home 2.
Did you watch it?
I did, yeah. Do you know what? Have you seen Daddy's Home 1?
I haven't. Is
Me
it
neither.
good?
I haven't seen it.
No, it didn't look very good.
It didn't look very good, did it? No.
But apparently it did well because, bam, we got a sequel coming. So.
I don't know how... This is one of those movies that I must have misinterpreted just how successful it was, because I felt like it was a bit of a bomb, and yet here is the sequel, and it's like, okay, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was. Maybe people liked this movie.
Well, it could have cost like 30-40 to make, and then worldwide done 120, and that's I don't actually know.
Yeah.
We'll put the statistics of how well Daddy's Home did on the page later.
Yes.
Yeah. I can say that because I'm a co-host tonight.
You are. You get to make some calls. You get to really kind of define the show format for this evening. So what did you think of this trailer?
Well, I was just so thoroughly surprised with the casting of it. So I think that the Daddy's Home, the story was that Will Ferrell is the sort of effeminate husband to a divorcee whose ex-husband has just come out of prison, and they have to work out how to relate to Mark Wahlberg is the prison inmate. So we've got to figure out how they're going to relate to the kids together and sort of co-parent.
Yeah.
And so it looks as though they figured it out in the beginning of the trailer for the sequel.
Yes.
But then it's like, oh, well, our dads are coming home for Christmas or Thanksgiving or something. I don't know which event it is.
One of them holidays.
I think it's irrelevant, but and they do these wonderful like reveals of who the dads are by setting them down an escalator at the airport. And I saw Mel Gibson, and it he plays Wahlberg's father.
He does,
and he looks terrifying and grisly as. And
what's the last Mel Gibson movie you saw
with him in it?
Yeah,
I would have no idea.
Okay.
I haven't watched like Get the Gringo or the one with the puppet or anything like that.
I didn't see the puppet one. What was that called? The Beaver.
Yeah.
So
like
I've kept
the
up
Patriot maybe? Like I'm seriously, I don't. What? Did any action movies come out after that?
2001's The Patriot.
Ransom, I watched that recently. Is that 2000? I don't know.
Ransom, I think, is about 1996. So roughly 15 years, you reckon, since you've seen a Mel Gibson movie?
Oh, no. I mean... The What Women Want.
That was about 2000.
Okay, well...
There you go.
Has he made... He hasn't been in many films.
No, he hasn't. I've been kind of keeping up with him because I quite like him as an actor. I think he's got an excellent screen presence.
Cool. Yeah, probably he does.
But. Yeah, and look, he's the perfect example of can you separate his assholeness from his art? And I guess at times I think he's quite a good director as well. Even though Hacksaw Ridge was awful, I think he's.
I liked Hacksaw.
Did you really?
Yeah, no, I did.
Wow.
I think it's like a little bit too bloody and very. Christian suffering. It's just anyway.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't mind it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I really hated it. But
yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, I've seen Get the Gringo. I saw Blood Father, which was something that came out late last year, I think. So yeah, I kind of keep track of him a bit, I guess. I actually am disappointed that the fathers aren't the opposite way around. I feel like there would be more jokes to mine. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously Will Ferrell's playing the big nerd, and Mark Wahlberg's the cool guy,
and John Lithgow plays Will Ferrell's father.
Yes,
which now that was literally the reason that trailer became interesting to me. And the most interesting part, when I first saw Gibson coming down the escalator, I was like, oh, he's going to play Will Ferrell's dad? That's weird. And then he walks over to Wahlberg. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, but weird, though.
It's super weird.
And then Lithgow, comes down, all rays and sunshine. And, I love him as Dick Solomon in Third Rock from the Sun.
Yes.
I love his flamboyant acting is my absolute favorite. And
he does manic, just bonkers better than so many people.
Yeah.
It's just,
and
it's wonderful to watch.
Beautiful voice. He's such an artist. He's just, I compare him with Jim Carrey in terms of being able to just physically transform into these different weird looks.
I'll pay that.
And
commit to the bit 100%.
Yeah.
That's,
And he's been playing these really sad old man characters. He did what's his name, Churchill in The Crown recently.
Oh, yeah, The Crown.
And
apparently he was wonderful.
He's so good. I cried in a lot of his scenes,
right.
but I'm just it hurts me to see you looking so decrepit and so so old and frail. And so when I just saw him burst on this staircase, I was like, oh, you're great. You're healthy. You're fine. You're alive. We've still got this. Oh, I'd love them to do a Third Rock from the Sun reboot. If they could get everyone back together, Will and Grace style. Oh, I'd love it.
It would be wonderful. That was such a very funny show. Very ahead of its time, too.
Definitely.
Look, I think this might be a funny movie only because I like to see the interactions between these characters. I think... Or these actors even, because I don't know these characters. So
I think it could be a superior sequel.
Potentially.
I feel
Having not seen the first movie.
I don't think that Wahlberg is a great comic actor. Like, he's obviously used as an anti-comic.
Yeah.
In
He's
these
the straight
kinds of
guy.
situations.
Yeah, I think he does that pretty well, though.
Yeah. But I don't know, when you have someone like Lithgow, particularly next to Gibson, who is kind of scary.
Yeah.
I think it'll just be fantastic.
He's never done like a legit comedy, has he? Mel Gibson?
Gibson.
Can we call What Women Want like a comedy?
Yeah, there's a lot of like slapsticky stuff, and there's some, he definitely makes fun of himself in that.
Okay.
I just remembered Signs would probably... When was that? 2004 maybe? That'll be the last Gibson film I watched.
2004, 2003, around that kind of mark.
Sorry, Mel.
No.
Not sorry.
No, not sorry at all. No, Mel's fine.
Yeah.
He's fine. But do you see the potential for comedy if they had have swapped the roles to have the cool guy Mark Wahlberg and then his dad be big dorky John Lithgow and then have Will Ferrell as the nerd and have his dad come down and be badass Mel Gibson?
Yeah, it would be strange, but I guess how do you carry on that joke?
No,
for
it's
film?
one joke as they come down the escalators and then that's done.
It's the escalator joke.
But sometimes that escalator joke might be worth it, man. Yeah, well, there you go. Maybe I'll have to watch the first one first and then go into that one.
I'm going to skip it. If I like the second one, I'll go back and watch the first.
I like it. I like it.
I figure, that'll do.
All right, well, I'm going to talk about the trailer for the new Catherine Bigelow film, Detroit.
I haven't seen it, but tell me.
Well, it looks fucking great.
Set
so
in
far.
Detroit?
It is set in Detroit. It's based around the Detroit riots. And it seems to be kind of concerning itself with a smaller event that occurred during them, where a African American security guard was at a hotel, perhaps, gets kind of, and that's played by John Boyega,
of Star
Wars fame.
Yep.
And he gets kind of an Attack the Block. Have you seen Attack the Block?
I haven't.
You should watch that. It's really great, really fun. Kind of gets caught up trying to help out this collection of African American people that are staying there, who then kind of get caught up in a standoff with some white. What do you call them?
Supremacists?
No, they're not supremacists, but they're kind of like militia, I guess. So they're kind of trying to, do the work of the streets, like trying
neighborhood watch, but
that's probably
with
the
weapons,
yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. And so, because of the animosity on the streets at that time, it seems to be something that kind of boils over into some pretty crazy times. I am very much looking forward to it. Do you like Catherine Bigelow?
I think I want to like Catherine Bigelow. I've never seen probably her greatest films, which I think is like Near Dark.
Near Dark's wonderful. Really, really great.
Point Break I've seen once. I don't know. Like, it's good.
Yeah.
Like a fun surfing bank robber movie. I don't know. So I
Point
didn't
Break
really
gets
think
better
about...
the further away you get from it, because you realise how one of a kind it kind of is.
Except for Fast and the Furious, which is the same film.
Sure.
Yeah.
Possibly a worse version of, though?
I'm not sure. If I watch them both back to back, I don't know what I'd feel about it.
I struggle with the first Fast and the Furious, because I feel like the things that make both films dorky, Point Break embraces, Fast and the Furious is trying to be the cool version of it and fails at it.
Yeah, Fast and the Furious has a little bit more of a it's a more of a machismo kind of a machismo.
Yes. That's okay.
Is it machismo? Anyway, it's
Machismo.
An Italian word. Whatever. Yeah. Whereas Point Break's hot guys that are surfies, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
pretty
much.
We're
having a fun time.
They're having a
I don't
great
think
time, man.
No one's having fun in Fast and the Furious.
They're here for a good time,
They're
not for
furious.
a long
Yeah.
time.
But I saw Hurt Locker and I was like, why did that win a Best Picture Oscar?
Okay.
I don't like Jeremy Renner.
Sure.
I saw Zero Dark 30 and I was like, yeah, fine.
Interesting.
And I'm like, like the most interesting thing was that Drazik killed Osama bin Laden, and I was like, oh, that's weird. That's a fun little morsel that only the 90s kids in Australia can take home.
That is a sentence that only 90s Australians like would understand. Drazik of Heartbreak High fame.
Yeah.
Who now is kind of building a little career for himself as like the tough guy in films.
Yeah, because he had an accident and he's got
eyeball.
a scar.
Yeah, and he's scarred. Yeah. But I liked him a lot on Heartbreak High. He was
loved him.
You know, when you kind of like, you're watching a show and you're like, I think you might be the only one that's kind of got something, you know?
Yeah.
It's funny that you say you don't like Hurt Locker very much.
It's fine.
Didn't do anything for you?
Well, no.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I just...
No, you do not need to apologise.
There's a scene when he's in a supermarket and I don't remember the rest of the film. Like...
That's very late in the film.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
I think, that was the most distinct thing that happened.
Sure.
Maybe.
No,
yeah.
Fair enough. It's one of those movies
I love the war. I'm going to go back and be a soldier. And I'm like, oh, okay. Anyway, I mean, not that it's not, my argument isn't even political. I'm just like, yeah, the film is fine. Like, it's just not like, it's one of those things when it's given more accolades than I think it deserves, which happens a lot around Oscar season.
Yeah,
but it does poison the well a bit with me personally. Like,
no, I understand that. We were actually Nicholas and I have spoken of a very similar thing. But yeah, so I'm pretty excited for this. I think I really like John Boyega. It's got the guy Will Poulter, the guy with the really big... We talked about him when we talked about It. He was going to be Pennywise with the big eyebrows.
Yeah, right.
He's like the main white bad guy, I guess.
Typecast as evil, poor fella. Well, whatever. Someone's got to do it.
That kind of face, man. That's just how his face works. I'm a little kind of miffed that she's falling into this kind of... Every, like, since Hurt Locker, it's been Zero Dark 30, and now this, it's like, I don't want her to become like the hot button issue director.
Yeah, I also like she doesn't really make films about women, and I mean,
it's true,
I find that strange. And of course, like, you know, that's what I love about my female directors is that they're women's stories, and I mean, I admire Bigelow for making. It's almost, I guess, only because it's more masculine does it make it less gendered, essentially. You know, it's almost a language kind of thing.
I mean, this is the kind of thing that you got to think about.
She makes ungendered, unsexed films. Like, there isn't sex in her movies, I don't think, you know.
There's, like, sex in the very superficial sense, as in hot people banging just because they're hot. But you got to think also, imagine, like, because you think of the reputation Point Break has. Especially to like...
No idea it was directed by a woman till I was like 25.
No, and do you know how many guys would be like, Point Break, it's fucking sick. Yeah. And if you told them a woman directed that, they would have no idea. No idea at all. No. They think it's this, you know, it's fucking... Oh, I love it, man. They fucking skydive and they're surfing and they're shooting guns. It's like a woman did that. Yeah. A woman made that and made it so effectively masculine, I guess. Like, it kind of, like, it shows that she's got a real eye for something that apparently a lot of people think only guys can do, I guess.
That's it. That's it. She proves, obviously, women can do that kind of action film and they can be great at it, and that is awesome.
Anyway, that's my trailer. Get on it, people. Give it a watch. It's going to be, I think it might be pretty decent. Let's move on to our next segment.
Ooh, what is our next segment?
What did you watch this week?
Okay, a few funny things.
Sure. As in few comedies, or?
Oh, well, yeah, it was.
Are you about to say the Flintstones?
I am. The one with John Goodman.
Amazing.
Yeah, it came up on Netflix as a recent ad, I think.
Yeah.
And I watched it. I hadn't seen it for probably 20 years.
Sure.
But I did watch it a lot when I was a kid. And I may have, like, because they had that big like Hanna-Barbera Looney Tunes sort of renaissance in the 90s.
Yes.
So
Yeah, we didn't get a Jetsons movie. What's that all about?
I don't know.
As if.
It doesn't make sense. Like, it's space. Well, that's the thing. We weren't really going into space. Like, space was like a sad Ron Howard movie.
Oh.
Which, like, you know... Actually, I don't remember what happens in Apollo 13. We'll talk about that later, though. But yeah, it was... I mean, the jokes are really hammy. I think part of the reason that it's on Netflix at the moment is that Kyle MacLachlan is the villain.
Yeah,
and
right.
he is very... Like, he's the hottest dude right now.
Moment.
So,
yeah.
So that was exciting. I'd forgotten Halle Berry's in it. Rick Moranis, who is someone... Again, in Parenthood that we're talking about today, like... But someone that I miss from the
really
cinema of my childhood.
Absolutely.
And so I'm like, I wanted to watch it to be like, hey, let's remember what we love about these people. John Goodman is fantastic in it. Like,
it's really well cast.
Yeah,
like
it really is.
They chose a very effective human counterpoint.
Yeah.
For
it looks like a pretty cheap film, to be honest. But
that's interesting.
It was just an easy watch, and I sort of didn't think that I'd follow it all the way through, but sure enough, like 90 minutes later, I was like, the film ended. I did watch it all. So
there you go.
Yeah, anyway, that was fun. Otherwise, I rewatched Jerry Maguire, which I do probably once every 1 or 2 months, just because...
Every 1 or 2 months?
Yeah, because it's just...
surely...
It goes for a long time, but about a year ago, I just started watching Jerry Maguire often.
Okay, sure. It's
and
just one of those choices?
It's one of the best written films ever, and I
adore it. I think it's wonderful.
I love it. And again, like Parenthood, it's a great, like, laugh-cry film.
Sure,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Is it your favourite Cameron Crowe?
Yeah, it's the best Cameron Crowe. Like, it is.
Yeah?
Yeah, I hate Almost Famous.
You hate Almost Famous. Hate it?
I can't stand it. I don't care.
Oh, wow.
Oh, but I think Jerry is amazing. I think it's one of the best Tom Cruise films.
It's definitely one of his better performances.
And Renee Zellweger, who I want to at some point I want to either do a podcast on Renee Zellweger because I find her career so interesting.
It is really, really bizarre.
She's in some of the best films of directors, and I find that so awesome.
Yeah, right.
So anyway.
She's had really bizarre career.
It is bizarre.
Yeah. I love Jerry Maguire. I love it. I do love Almost Famous as well.
Well,
it could be the music.
You know,
the music lover in me.
I hate music. No, I'm not.
Yeah, very good. I'm still caught up on the fact that you say you watch it that often, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it just
beautiful.
to kind of every now and then?
I don't even mean to. Like, I'll be like, I love this scene when
sure.
This cathartic moment happens, and then I'll be like, I'll just watch the first 20 minutes because there's basically a mini film in the opening credits.
Yeah, no, it's true.
And I'm like, I just love watching that credit sequence, the way it moves, the way it's cut up, like, and then sure enough, a couple hours later, I'm like, I did the whole thing again. Oh.
Have you heard about the guy that's collecting all the Jerry Maguire VHSs?
Yeah, they finally made they opened what's it called? All the Jerrys. What was it? They did an exhibition in LA, right. And I think it was over like 2 weeks before I got there because I would absolutely have gone. And I was in Phillip Island and I saw a VHS of Jerry Maguire.
Oh my God. I own a VHS
of
Jerry Maguire.
I have to send it to all the Jerrys or whatever it's called. And then, I didn't, but yeah.
Now, I have my ex-rental copy from when I worked at Video Easy.
That's awesome.
It was one of those, it was a defining movie for sure. I think it... what happened to Cameron Crowe? What are we... I
don't know. I mean, I think... I don't know. You should listen to the Blank Check with Griffin and David. They do a Cameron Crowe season.
Great. Yeah, I've heard of that show. I've heard
and they go into great detail because they watch all of his films and talk about them.
Sure.
But personally, I have no idea. Like, I think he just got old and stupid. Like, maybe he took a lot of drugs. He became less interesting. Like, who knows?
Or maybe he stopped taking drugs and became less interesting.
That's a good point. Sorry, that's more likely to be accurate. Cameron Crowe, please take some more drugs. Thank you.
I actually didn't mind We Bought a Zoo. I find it easily digestible. And actually, it was quite sweet. You know, when what he still manages to do really well is like tap into that really simple sweetness. So he always had an ability to be able to make a very small gesture feel very large on an emotional scale. And I think he's still very good at that, but it's just the complexity of the characters is just gone. The things that made these people really kind of live and breathe just doesn't exist anymore. It's really strange.
Well, I mean, Cruise as a performer doesn't exist that way anymore either, which is, you know, what I still find the film so interesting for that reason, that it captures this really human, flawed Tom Cruise that, you know, now he's in his like sci-fi phase, and like he can't be.
That's been going for like 15 years.
It has,
hasn't it?
but you know, he'd had a career for 15 years before he made 10 maybe before he did Jerry Maguire, and it's just like, where is this silly guy? This sort of like troubled, awkward, like hand to my head, like all this physical sort of flipping out and everything. He just had so much to bring, and I don't know, like all this wonderful frustration in Jerry Maguire is so human and real. And I'm sorry I didn't get like a best actor for it, because I just think
definitely nominated.
Yeah, that I'm like, that was, I don't know.
He's probably he'll be one of those guys that I just don't think will ever win. Unless he turns in some kind of like statesman-like performance as an elderly gentleman.
Yeah, was he nominated for Collateral? Like, I feel like that could have been.
He wasn't. Jamie Foxx was.
Fox was, but he won it the previous year for Ray. Anyway, that doesn't matter.
Yes.
Or the following.
I think that was the year Jamie Foxx had 2 nominations.
Oh, he was nominated for Ray and Collateral.
I think it was Ray and Collateral, yeah. But yeah, Tom Cruise is a really interesting. That's a fucking ridiculous conversation.
I could actually just talk about Tom Cruise like
it's just bizarre.
Forever, but yeah. And Nicole. Ron Howard directed a film with both of them in it. Thank you. Just going to bring it back again. So yeah,
did indeed. That's where we get Tom Cruise's wonderful Irish accent on display.
Yeah.
Why don't you like me hat? I watched a film this week that I've heard. I remember you maybe wrote something on Facebook about it not long ago, because it just popped up on Stan.
Oh.
I watched Everybody Wants Some.
Oh my gosh, did you love it?
I loved it.
I loved it too.
Yeah, it was really great.
Oh my gosh, it's like my favorite Linklater, and I admit that I haven't watched a lot of his films.
I haven't watched a lot either. I actually went back and went through his stuff. I've watched more than I thought I had, because he has directed films that I had no idea he directed.
Well, interesting that you cut from Crow to him though, because I think that sometimes that they directed films that each other directed. Like, I get them mixed up.
Sure.
Yeah, so anyway, because they both have like the music, Dazed and Confused and Almost Famous. Like, I know they're different times,
fair enough.
but I'm kind of like,
I feel you.
The period piece Rock and Roll Fast Times was written by Crow, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I seem to have only seen what people kind of agree are the lesser Linklater for some reason. I haven't actually seen Dazed and Confused, of all things.
I haven't watched it like in a long time. So maybe it's better than Everybody Wants Some, but I just loved Everybody Wants Some so much.
Well, this is the problem with it is that I heard a lot of people kind of were let down because of the success of Boyhood. So when they went from Boyhood to Everybody Wants Some, there was a disappointment there. Which I didn't feel because I didn't see Boyhood, because I didn't like the
idea of a 4-hour film or whatever it is.
No, I found like it just sounded like such a stunt.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Maybe one day I'll sit down and I'll watch it, but I can't have that yelled at me about this movie that took 12 years to make. I'm like, I don't care if it took 12 years to make. That doesn't automatically make it a good film. But that was the only reason that it was sold. Like, every single ad said the movie that took 12 years to make. Yeah, it was reviewed really well, but it was always that was it. The movie that it's in real time. Watch this kid grow up in real time, basically. You see
and
him.
it was just fine. That's the thing.
Well, there you go.
And everything that was missing from Boyhood, which is essentially sex, was all that Everybody Wants Some was about, which is why I loved it. I'm like, yeah, but what if like your characters got boners? Think later. That was pretty much what I wanted, because I'm like, I'm sorry, you can't give me a boy's teenagehood and tell me that he never like masturbated. I know it sounds like, I'm not trying to be crass, but I'm like, how is that missing from a life?
There's a very truthful conversation in the film we're going to be talking about about it as well.
Yes.
But yeah, it's really funny when I look at his career, I'm like, the movies that I have seen, some that people just don't give a fuck about, like Suburbia. Have you seen Suburbia?
No.
Giovanni Ribisi and
I had no idea that was a Linklater film at all.
Who else is in it? Oh, Steve Zahn. Steve Zahn is in it, and he's wonderful in it.
I love Steve. Now, where's Steve Zahn?
Where is Steve Zahn? That's a good question.
Where are you, Steve Zahn?
And
Please tweet at us.
Do it, because of course he's listening. Yeah, and it's very similar to Everybody Wants Some in the sense that it's essentially, it has no plot. The movie is character development. It's 2 hours of character development.
Yeah.
It has no definable synopsis. Like you can talk about his films in one sentence, basically. A lot of them, it amazes me that he's made a trilogy out of basically two people just hanging out.
It amazes me too, and I hate that trilogy.
Okay,
the third one was my favorite.
Sure.
I didn't watch the second or most of the first.
Sure.
I had to turn the first one off.
No, fair enough. But then, I've seen School of Rock. I've seen Bad News Bears.
Oh, I
of all
love
things.
School of Rock.
School of Rock is wonderful.
School of Rock's so
but
great.
It doesn't feel like a Linklater film to me. I don't.
No.
Think. It's very... Oh, and Me and Orson Welles is the other one I've seen of all things.
And that's terrible.
Well, I didn't mind it. And it actually turned me around on Zac Efron. I was like, you're all right. You're going to be okay.
Yeah. I do like Zac Efron a lot. So
yeah.
I don't know which film turned me... I think it was Hairspray. I was like,
sure.
You're doing this
yeah.
Yeah.
He's turned out to be one of my kind of favourite comedic actors now.
I want him to play
things.
Nathan Drake in Uncharted, but
that
would be my fantasy. It's gone to the Spider-Man boy. And
Tom Holland.
They're going to do like a baby Uncharted
weird.
guy. I'm sorry I keep talking about sex, but I'm like, I just don't find that child attractive. Like, that isn't right.
Because he's a child. It's probably better that you don't find
Drake's
him attractive.
a man. That's the only reason I play Uncharted. Like, because he's cute. But
yeah, so Everybody Wants Some. I really enjoyed it. He's very clever at kind of tapping into a certain psyche, I think.
Yeah.
He was very... You put a lot of dudes in a room together, and it was surprisingly... Even though it was quite funny and it kind of took it all to a heightened level, it was quite accurate.
Yeah, absolutely. And it didn't... That's it. Like, no one was caricaturish or anything. They were real guys... They were really sensitive, and I mean, I liked that the film has scenes. Like, it's like I'm gonna show you a scene from beginning to end. Like, and I liked the structure of it's like 3 or 4 nights that it's set over, and you just go to a different party every night
before their classes start.
Yeah, and it's.
Which and it's really funny because it reminded me of a time when I remember the last couple of days before school starting, and it always had this sense of finality to it. Like when your summer holidays were coming to an end, summer for us, it always felt like doom was approaching, and there was it ran through that film. Even though like they were doing these wonderful things, it treated like school starting again as like this end of something, like a really definitive end.
That's it. And the whole thing about them being baseball players on the baseball team, you don't look at any of them and think like they have no interest or aptitude for a professional baseball career. Like
no,
baseball,
it doesn't seem that way.
It takes such a back seat. It's just like they're playing college ball so that they can go to college. Yeah. And college is just an experience in and of itself. Like,
do you know?
That's
but
it.
what I really liked about that is, and this is something my partner brought up as well. We were watching and it was just like, I'm so glad when it got to the baseball section that they actually all kicked ass at baseball. Like, especially like Tyler Hoechlin. Is that his name?
I don't know which one is which.
He was the hitter with the mustache. The really from Road to Perdition and Teen Wolf and stuff.
Road to Perdition.
He's the kid from Road to Perdition.
Well, he got He grew
He
up.
definitely grew up. Yeah.
Well, what? How old is he? What year was that made?
He would be in his late 20s now,
Oh,
probably.
great.
Because he was... No, he wouldn't be late 20s. That's a lie. He'd be mid-20s.
Yeah, he is great.
Yeah.
He's really good in that
But you'd
film.
watch him... He's like, he slides and he gets straight up and he's hitting, like, his form looks really sleek and everything.
He cuts the baseballs in half with a
With a-
machete or something as well,
axe,
which
yeah.
is an axe. That's it. That is so
Which is
great.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, but very funny, like, lots of really good laughs and coming never at the expense of the characters. It was always really true to the characters. And lots of times where you would find characters that you initially didn't like very much, by the end of the movie, you loved.
yeah.
And I think
that's
that was
it.
a really, really effective writing because that's
Yeah.
hard to do. That's really hard
absolutely, and that's what it is. Like he's just met these people, and as you know, as they become his friends, we learn to love them as
Yes,
well. You know,
exactly.
and it's such a clever thing for a film to do.
Yeah, 100%. I really liked it. Yeah, I'm going to go back and I think I'm going to attack a few more of his things now because I think I haven't deliberately avoided them, but I haven't really sought any of them out, but I think I'm going to try.
Yeah, me too. I
Yeah.
want to definitely watch Dazed and Confused again.
Yeah. All I know is the McConaughey,
Yeah.
like, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's obviously more to that movie than that.
Maybe
So-
there's not.
Maybe that's not.
okay. Yeah.
Hey,
Hey.
I think it's time we move on to our feature presentation.
Okay.
And now for our feature presentation.
I'm excited.
I'm glad you're excited. We had a little small moment of silence so that I could enter in my my little
Your
audio
chime?
file. Just a little ding. Yes, that's all we need. We're talking about Parenthood.
Parenthood.
1989's Parenthood in honor of Nicholas, who is suddenly thrust into parenthoodness
Yes.
as of earlier this week.
I think that the film's a great handbook for parents too, in many ways.
I
But
will agree with that very
Yeah.
much so.
with infants, not so much. So, I mean, I'd say give it a watch at about 3 when they're 3 years old, maybe.
You don't really get the opportunity to see them really handle babies very
No.
much. But
Well, yeah. There's
except at the
one
end where
baby
there's-
scene.
where
Yeah.
there's multiple babies
Magical
everywhere.
baby scene. It's one of my favorite things about Parenthood is that without even realizing, every character becomes pregnant, and then at the
Yes.
end, you're like, the lottery of who is having this child,
I-
because of course
yes.
all the women are pregnant. Like,
Exactly.
and
I found it
forgotten.
really interesting because
Yeah.
in my head, every time they showed someone else, I was like, "Oh, who's left? Who's left to still be pregnant?"
Yes.
And it was actually a really effective reveal. It was really great.
It was amazing.
So you expressed before that this has been a long time favorite of yours.
Yeah, I used to say my 2 favorite films are Parenthood and Eyes Wide Shut.
Wow. Couldn't be more.
Yeah,
Opposite
they're different.
films.
I mean, Eyes Wide Shut makes plenty of sense considering how much I've just talked about sex and Tom Cruise. So, you know, that, duh.
Yeah, for sure.
And Nicole. And anyway, look, I grew up watching this film. And I think at a time when I was becoming a little bit more critically, sort of my taste was forming, I would go back to Parenthood, and I think with a lot of the films when you rewatch them, as I mentioned earlier, as you mature, you realize, they're not that great. But Parenthood is better and better. Like, and I get so surprised every time I watch it with how I feel about it.
Sure.
As a giant ensemble cast film. Like, I can't believe that this film isn't on lists of greatest films, personally. Like,
Yeah, it doesn't. It's funny because it's I will let the cat out of the bag on this one. Is that this is my first viewing of Parenthood,
which is shocking.
It is shocking.
Yeah.
It's one of those films that
Nick is like going at the point of listening right now, I'm sure.
What? It's, but not through like any kind of deliberate choice. It's just that it always kind of, it popped up on television a lot when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It was always on free-to-air television as like the Friday night or the Saturday night movie.
Yeah.
And I saw lots of parts of it. but I'd never sat down and watched it all the way through. And then as you kind of get to a certain age where obviously, you know, I'm not watching movies with my parents anymore and I'm watching my, you know, things that I choose myself, because what you like, as you're saying, it doesn't, no one talks about it anymore.
No.
So I always just kind of felt like it was unnecessary to watch it.
That's it.
And so I'd just go on and I'd do other things. And I remember the DVD release was always really kind of crappy. It was, the covers were always really dodgy, and I was just kind of like, oh yeah, and there was no special features or anything. And I was like, is this just kind of like that movie that, you know, that people kind of just don't want to talk about and kind of just put away?
Well, it's strange as well because Ron Howard is, like, I think by all means a good director. Like,
yeah, sure.
You know, not a favorite of mine by any means, except that he did make this. But and then Steve Martin is a great comedian, and he has a lot of films that are iconically Steve Martin comedian films, like The Jerk and Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. And but for some reason, Parenthood doesn't get lopped in with that, whereas it is a film where he does some of his most fantastic physical comedy.
He is, yeah.
He is. Anyway, I mean, yeah.
Well, let's talk about Steve Martin because he. You know, I don't want to make grand statements, but any given day, I could possibly say he's my favorite person in the world.
Oh my gosh! And how? Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like at any given point, I could just say, you know what? Today it's Steve Martin because I love Steve Martin. I've read his book. I have. He's like DVD collection of all these moments on different television shows and stuff. They put a collection together. I adore him for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, no, but he's wonderful, and he just seems like a nice guy.
He seems like the nicest guy ever. And I have always kind of, I think it's probably House Sitter. I'll say it's House Sitter. Is the film that I think I watched more than any other film as a kid.
That's like one of the worst films he's in.
I know,
okay,
it's not a great movie at all. But
no.
For some reason, I watched that a lot as a kid. And so it kind of, because he's got such a distinctive look that whenever he was in anything else, me as a kid would always be kind of like, Steve Martin.
Yeah, absolutely. Me as well.
And so from there, it's just kind of built up. And I don't watch everything that he's in. I'm never going to watch Shop Girl, probably.
He wrote that too.
I know he wrote that.
He wrote the book of it, weirdly enough.
But
I've seen it. It's fine.
And this is what I hear. It's fine.
Yeah.
You know, but then again, I love something like Three Amigos.
Yeah.
I think he's just it was genius to put those three together. And they're such different types of comedians. Yet for me, he's clearly the standout in that film as well.
And I think Parenthood, it occurs in the heart of the sort of golden time of Steve Martin post SNL, which is that sort of mid to late 80s to mid 90s. So he's come off like Three Amigos and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Oh, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Yeah.
God,
and
so good.
Then Parenthood is 89, and then Father of the Bride's 91. And I mean, he plays he's kind of a Parenthood character in that as well.
Yes, this seems to me, this reminds me of the Steve Martin that I know best. I don't know. I've seen Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid.
Yeah.
I haven't actually seen The Jerk. I've never seen it.
That's good. There's another one.
But that version of Steve Martin, the really bonkers kind of wacky version, is not my Steve Martin. Steve Martin is the really so easily adorable everyman. That's the one that I love more than anything. And I think, but the one that does so in a way where he can also be ridiculous. Like there's a moment in this where when his son catches the fly ball, his run across the field had me just in stitches. Yeah. Like it was so wonderful.
That's it. Every time I watch it, I laugh to the point of tears. Yeah. And when that kid, because I have to watch the scene where he doesn't catch the baseball.
Of course.
And I'm like, oh, that's hard. And they do that that caveat to the child shooting up the college thing or whatever. Not a joke you can make anymore.
You never get away with that. I could not believe that I was watching that they were making a gag out of like a high school shooting.
Yeah, well, this is like,
it's insane.
I like the idea that's the extreme. It's like, oh, I've done the wrong thing. My child's going to massacre children. or I do the right thing and he'll be a valedictorian.
Yeah.
Like that, those extremes playing out in
And
his
I
head
found
is
it really
so
funny
adorable.
that they tried to make Steve Martin look old at that point.
And they gave him a mustache.
But you know what's weird? He still looks younger now. And
Yeah.
this is like, we're talking like, nearly 30 years later, and he looks younger now than they tried to make him look old in that film.
Yeah, absolutely.
He
he takes
never
good care of
changed.
himself, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've lost my train of thought. But when Kevin catches that ball,
Yes.
it is like I am the happiest person in the world. Like
It's such a great moment.
It is
like,
so beautiful.
And so Ron Howard is perhaps not the subtlest of directors, and whether or not that works in his favor or not is...
I think he's very effective.
I think he is very effective at making you feel what he wants you to feel. That is 100% true. But, and he milks that moment for everything it's worth. I don't think I've ever seen a longer setup for one of those moments. When you're like, it happens a lot in movies, and obviously I watch a lot of sport films because I quite enjoy them.
Yeah.
So I've seen that scene a lot of times, the failure and then the success. That it is never taken longer for a ball to land in someone's glove than it does in that movie.
I don't even think about it. I'm just like, oh, I know when the ball's gonna land.
But it's just like there's so many looks, and then he's got like 4 different faces while it's in the air, and then you've got Clint Howard, the world's biggest creep, behind the fence.
Yeah, always token performance in a Ron Howard film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well,
you gotta look for Clint.
Good. Clint Howard is great.
He is great,
and he's so like, for anyone who is not following who we're talking about, he's the dad of is he like the first baseman or something? And he says, "You're only going to win if you do it yourself, so go do it." And he's the really creepy looking guy. It's amazing,
and
that
he's really
that's
mean. He's
Ron
just a sample
Howard's
of like
brother.
a bad parent in the film, which
for sure.
you don't otherwise see much of. But
he's is it just Ron Howard films? Because I feel like I've seen him in so many things. He must pop up in other stuff, surely.
It's mostly Ron Howard films.
Really?
He has a couple of jokes at the end of Austin Powers for that, like, the dick jokes that they used to do. Yeah.
Isn't he, what film is he in when he plays someone that gets, like, hypnotized or something? Or am I making...
Possibly a Ron Howard film. I'm just saying, like, but yeah, it's kind of like if you look for Bill Murray's brother in a Bill Murray film, you also look for Ron Howard's brother in a Ron Howard film.
Do you know, it took me, I never ever realised Brian Doyle Murray was Bill Murray's brother. I didn't put 2 and 2 together because they didn't look similar enough for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to be told. Yeah. But then... Yeah.
And once you see it, you can never not see
absolutely.
it. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess, I don't know, should we say what the film's kind of about? Other than Parenthood generally. I mean, do you think all of the listeners would have seen Parenthood?
Well, I don't know because, I don't consider myself someone, who's shied away from movies in my life, and for some reason I haven't seen it. But then again, you saying how often you've seen this, my girlfriend saying that, she'd seen it 1,000 times before we sat down to watch it. Maybe I'm just the exception to this rule. I just kind of missed it.
Yeah, you're the one person in the world who just hasn't sat down through the whole film.
I wonder if I'm the last person over 25.
Yeah.
To watch Parenthood.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, I hope we have some young listeners that are going to go and watch Parenthood.
Well, you can't find it on any streaming things.
Oh no!
Yeah. Well, this is luckily enough.
It was definitely on one of them recently.
I was sure it was
on
too.
Stan, I think,
but I couldn't find it. I luckily enough had I have a Steve Martin triple pack that has it on it. But strangely enough, and this is you'll remember this from our JB Hi-Fi days. The DVD's so old that it's in...
The 6.98s or whatever now?
Well, it is. Yeah, it's cheap as shit. But it's in the old square 4:3 aspect ratio.
Oh.
So it's not even made for widescreen televisions.
Oh, I have the Blu-ray, so...
You have the Blu-ray?
Of course I do.
So I'm sitting here like a sucker. I watched this movie and I was watching it. I was like, oh my God, it's doing my head in. I'm watching it like I'm watching it on an old CRT TV.
They released it on Blu-ray. You can get it for $13. Probably cheaper now. That was 6 years ago.
Yeah. I think special features because the DVD has nothing. The DVD is one of those ones where it has cast biographies and tries to call that a special feature.
No, I forget who the production company is, but it's one of those ones they just released.
Paramount.
Like, here's a Paramount film.
Yeah.
In a better transfer. That's it. But yeah.
Dodgy.
So, I mean, look, Parenthood is about parenthood, obviously, generally, but it sort of is about 3 to 4 generations of the one sort of Buckman family, of which... so now I can't remember the woman who plays Susan, the sister. I don't know the actress's name, but there's Steve Martin is the son of Jason Robards. Is that Robards?
Yeah, Robards.
It's got an S. Thanks. Okay.
I think it's got an S.
I think so too.
Yeah, I'll check while you keep talking.
Yeah, who I love. And Rick Moranis plays his brother-in-law. Diane Wiest, who was nominated for an Oscar for the film, plays his sister. And and Tom Hulse, who's the voice of Quasimodo in Hunchback of Notre Dame.
It is.
It's literally his only other credit, by the way. Oh, no, he's Amadeus. Sorry.
No, I always remember
he's
Amadeus.
Mozart as well in Amadeus. And he is so great, and I don't know why he wasn't in more films. And he's wonderful in
Robots,
the little bit of work that he does in this movie too. So it's about 4 siblings and their children and their parents and then their children's children. But yeah, so it's like a giant ensemble cast film, and I don't think that Howard has taken on like a big an ensemble comedy since, and he's probably one of the only of the... I don't lump him in with other directors, but
sure.
I see him and even someone like Mel Gibson or Clint Eastwood. I mean, they go a little darker, or Spielberg. None of them have gone like family comedy, or like a giant family comedy ensemble, as if it were like Woody Allen blockbuster style, you know?
Sure.
Like,
I got a lot of Woody Allen vibes watching this film.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's a very Woody Allen kind of script, really.
And it didn't feel like a Ron Howard film to me.
No.
As soon as I get real kind of almost John Hughesy vibes, not his teenage, but he's more his family stuff.
Yeah, and it's got some John Hughesy actors in it too.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it as well. But even as soon as the kind of the fantasy element of the opening scene, where it's he's at the baseball game and it's him talking into the future and stuff, and then the Randy Newman song kicks in, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is like that was my childhood watching those kind of movies. Where it was just like that, hearing a Randy Newman song over credits, watching someone like Steve Martin, I feel like I'm at home. Like, I feel like
absolutely.
that is
and like
100% where I want to be.
That whole scene is done like with the sun setting as well. Like it's this, it's the most beautiful credit sequence of them just trying to pack the kids into the car while the sun plays.
And it tells its own little kind of... it's not relevant to the story in a sense, but it kind of, it's a metaphor for the movie itself.
Yeah, for this basic everyday struggle to coordinate children.
Yeah, exactly.
And the heroism that it almost sort of comes with it when you watch it out. And like, I love then that the sun is setting and the car is driving on the highway, and the next thing you hear is the kids singing the diarrhea song.
Oh my god, the diarrhea song! And this is proof that I had. I know, that's it. This is proof that I had definitely seen parts of this movie because I knew the diarrhea song. And I was like, well, I've definitely seen at least some of this movie.
I definitely sang the diarrhea song in cars.
Out loud at least
I didn't know
once
it came
in my
from
life.
Parenthood. Maybe it didn't. Maybe the kid was picking up on something that was going on. I mean, I understand that it was written about like Ron Howard and Brian Grazer's like kids. So yeah, and like about their experience with parenting. Yeah. So a lot of the things that happen have sort of been pulled out of real life.
Yeah, and
which makes sense.
You know, they're smart writers. Funnily enough, it just so happens that the film we did last week, A League of Their Own, features the same writers.
Oh no way!
Yeah, it was just kind of a fluke. I was just kind of looking through, and I went, "Oh my god!" Because they've got he's got a really interesting name, and so it was easy to remember.
Would A League of Their Own have been the follow-up?
Babaloo Mandel.
Ah.
And his writing partner is Lowell Gans.
Yeah, right.
And so they've written a bunch of kind of like Splash and things like that. Films that, you know, you recognise from the 80s and early 90s as being those kind of comedies.
Yeah.
League of Their Own, of course. And yeah, so it was really interesting to see. And they have a very distinctive style, I feel like.
Definitely.
And it's a style that I really warm to.
Me too.
It's not like the jokes are... they're definitely there. Like, they're not finding jokes that aren't there. It's not super witty in like the intelligent sense. They're very, they're I don't want to use the word obvious because I feel like that's kind of got a negative connotation, but it's the obvious joke, but the good joke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's so easy to enjoy because you don't have to feel like you're being like pandered to in a dumb kind of way, but at the same time, you get to have a really good laugh at what feels like a really truthful joke.
Yeah,
a truthful moment of humor.
A moment of humor that a friend or someone you know would make.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. Well, I mean, Howard had come off fantasy films, sort of.
Yeah, Willow was pretty recently before this, wasn't it?
Was the previous film. Cocoon.
Do you like Willow?
I don't think I've seen it.
I really like Willow. It's pretty great.
There was an ad on one of my VHSs as a child, and I found the concept a bit scary, so I didn't.
Yeah, I think I think it was one that I thought I'd watched a lot as a kid, but watching it again, I think I maybe watched it once or twice, and it was a bit too dark for me.
Yeah.
But revisiting it as a late teenager, and I watch it every couple of years. I think it's really entertaining.
But before that, it was Cocoon, and there's another one that is a fantasy, magical, or sci-fi. Like, he'd never done a sort of a realism kind of comedy. Like,
no,
that wasn't his style, and he hasn't really done one since. Has he? Like, he went into like the Oscar territory of making sort of epics. And
he did Splash as well. That's funny.
Yeah, Splash, and about a mermaid, a magical thing.
Of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah, look,
that's what I was thinking about.
He had an interesting kind of transition though, because it didn't happen. Because I think it's pretty safe to say that you can call Far and Away a bit of a failure in the
I don't
sense
think
that it was an attempt to be seen as far more legitimate and didn't quite come off. I think.
I think Far and Away as well is meant to be like, it is essentially a comedy as well, and I don't think it was ever marketed that way.
Sure, that's
I mean, if you watch it, it's playing like a sitcom, like a Battle of the Sexes kind of thing.
No, fair call.
And that's about it, really.
Yeah.
But
until he reached kind of Apollo 13.
Yeah.
Which is, I love Apollo 13. I think
I love it too, but I can't remember it. Is that terrible? I watched it maybe 2 years ago, and I'm still like, did that rocket explode?
No,
I don't know.
They make it home.
Oh, good. Oh, all right.
It's
great.
one of that is like, that's the kind of movie to me that if I see it's on television and I flick to it, I'm stuck. I'm stuck there till the end.
Yeah.
Like, there's only a few movies that I can honestly say will do that every time. Apollo 13 is definitely one of those.
Do you think it's because, and I find this as well with Parenthood, and again, I've seen it so many times, so the effect has worn off slightly, but that you're never sure what exactly the next scene is coming up. And you get that thrill of being like, oh, this is going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's
for sure.
My favorite thing.
He found a really effective way to make a story that we all knew the outcome of. Thrilling regardless. So let me ask you a couple of things.
Shoot.
Can I?
Yeah, I've love that. I hope I can guess the correct answer. No. That doesn't make sense. Yeah. It's going to be an opinion thing, right?
Yeah, of course.
All right, great.
Well, okay, so watching this, I love this cast, and we've already kind of mentioned it in passing.
Oh, it's so good.
Where are our generation's normal dudes? To me, Steve Martin, Rick Moranis, Tom Hulse, they're just normal guys. Like, we don't have that. I look at Rick Moranis and he would never, ever get famous today.
No, well, they're comedians. I mean, your normal guy is Seth Rogen, for example. But I know it's a very different kind of humor.
But you won't ever catch Seth Rogen playing this kind of role. Like, Rick Moranis is almost presented as, like, not a hunk, but as like, his wife is gorgeous.
No, but that's
he's
part
very
of the
well
joke
put together.
Is surely how on earth, what is this woman doing with him? Like, I think a little bit, like, you know. Anyway,
and I mean, Steve Martin obviously isn't exactly would you call him traditionally like handsome? I guess.
No, he's interesting looking. He's a handsome guy, but I mean, they're comedians though. This is the thing. You have to look to the comedians. Otherwise, I say follow the people that Woody Allen is casting.
Okay.
And for example, Jesse Eisenberg is your normal guy.
Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix, who's in Parenthood.
Who is in Parenthood.
Is your normal guy.
He's got this brooding kind of
he's
thing
so
going on.
gorgeous. But I mean, like, you know, and I've loved him since Parenthood. Like,
but could anyone
nice,
honestly say about Rick Moranis that they think he's gorgeous?
No, but
so what's our equivalent?
Who's our
Rick Moranis?
our basic bitch?
Do we get
but that we love?
Yeah. Do we get to have these kind of
I don't
roles
know.
anymore?
Is Miles Teller attractive? I guess so.
Yeah, I think people think he's
But
attractive.
who's like you have to think, because Moranis never had his own film. He was always he's a character actor. So like,
I don't know. Little
Paul
Shop,
Giamatti.
maybe
I don't know.
call.
Like,
okay, maybe
yeah,
the Paul
if
Giamatti.
you're going, I don't like Paul Giamatti particularly, but I mean, like, you know, that could be an example.
It's interesting because there was one scene in particular where I was watching Steve Martin talk to Rick Moranis, and in my head I just thought this movie could never get made today. Like, it just kind of dawned on me in that second where I was like,
today. That's
it's
the thing.
it's way too good for today.
There's no way that anyone could come up with a script like this.
But you couldn't have two people like that in the same frame without somebody saying, guys, why don't we cast, can Clooney play one of these guys? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it just doesn't occur anymore.
No,
I never get to see it anymore.
Well, this idea of like, these are people in their mid to late 30s, these characters, like the sort of the central, like mid to late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah.
As the concept of a person that age being a family person with children and brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
You only see that on television. Like, it doesn't belong in Hollywood anymore.
Well, the family dynamic has completely changed since then, really. Like,
this is a changing family dynamic, which is what this is a largely dysfunctional family.
Yeah.
And yet for some reason that has an enormous distance.
Yeah, sure.
I don't think that you can have sympathetic or sort of big loving stories about people getting divorced or arguing about whether or not they should have children. Or
I found it really I was really surprised by the abortion conversation. I just didn't think that would exist in this movie. I actually found there's moments in this movie that I think are at odds with a lot of the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
That it's such a really interesting balancing act that I was okay with it, but I'm not sure if it ultimately juggles everything really well.
That's the thing, is that what I like about it is that it can be a really adult film at times, and I love that. Like the lines, like Diane Weiss is look, Steve Martin is the best thing in the film.
Sure.
His cowboy scene is one of the greatest things
it's beautiful.
ever. Like, absolutely
beautiful.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm so in love with it.
Yeah.
But Weiss has lines that are so good, and that she delivers with such sort of. I mean, it's effortless for her, but boy, is this woman struggling. Like, and like, there's that line, and it's a dirty line, but like, you know, when her daughters come home crying, I've forgotten that actor's name,
Oh, she's got a wonderful name.
She does have a wonderful name.
Marla Plimpton.
Yes.
Martha
Plimpton. So,
Martha, that's it.
She's come home. She's fought with Keanu Reeves, who plays her boyfriend in this, who is amazing. Peak, beautiful Keanu Reeves.
I want to go. I want to talk about that.
We'll get
later.
to Keanu, and we'll get to those kids particularly, because they all have a big like River Phoenix connection.
Sure.
But Weiss says something like, she's like, Martha Plimpton goes, "He said he loved me." And she goes, "Oh, they always do. And then they come." And that's what she says to her 17-year-old daughter. And there's a truth to it. There's a sadness to it. There's a complete wrongness to it.
Yeah.
But at the time, it is the best way that she can comfort her daughter. And it's so effective.
Well, there are, for what's kind of, I always kind of thought was a family comedy. You've got like blowjob gags. You've got vibrator gags.
Yeah, which is what I love because like this is family is all about this stuff too. You know? Like, that's it. Like, how do you keep your sex lives interesting after children? Are you using a vibrator if you don't have a husband? And what's your child going to think of that if they find out? And is your kid having sex? Like, and how do you deal with that?
And I think even though it's played as a laugh, it's kind of one of the most like honest explanations of somebody in that situation where she says something like, "Of course I'm fucking a robot because your father got to leave and play,
and I had to raise
kids. And I'm like,
and I have no life.
It's wonderful.
It's
like
so
it's
good.
But it's so succinct. Like that's what is it? That's 15 words, and it says it better than so many other people have attempted to say what it's like when a husband leaves a wife.
Yeah.
Like, and that just nails it.
Absolutely.
I think.
And I think the good thing is every single character in this film gets their moment when you are watching the film from their perspective.
Sure. 100%.
Like, and that is the camera will move to them and you're watching them look at one of the other characters and worry and concern or laugh or be comforted. And when they're happy, you're happy. And when they're sad, you are devastated.
Yes, for sure.
And it's just like, how do you manage, like, even just the economy of doing that with a cast, like, with a main cast of like 8 to 10 characters that you're following around and caring so much about? Like, it's just, I can't believe what this film
They do an exceptionally good
manages,
job of juggling all these storylines. And it feels very, it feels incredibly episodic, but not to its detriment. Like,
no.
I was saying as we were watching it, because we had to stop a couple of times just because of, random things in the house, like we had to turn something on, or I had to hang my washing out and do all this kind of stuff. And because we'd pause every now and then, it actually felt like watching a television series.
Yeah.
Much more than really any other movie I can think of at this moment. Like, the episodic nature was so clear, but actually makes it better, because at the end of what was, it's 2 hours and a couple of minutes or something. It's 125 minutes or something. It feels longer, but not in a way that feels like it's draining. It has the opposite effect. It feels longer, like you've spent so much time with these people.
That's it. Yeah.
And I think it's really cleverly put together.
All right. Well, let's talk about Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, let's go back and talk. We'll do a bit of a cast roundup.
Oh, okay. All right.
So we'll jump to Keanu now.
We're jumping to Keanu.
Yeah, let's do Keanu.
Sorry if you wanted to talk Plimpton
We kind of.
Yeah.
Well, there's not really much
fine.
to say about Martha Plimpton. She had a really interesting career. I think was it Goonies?
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. Well, she dated River Phoenix.
Sure.
She wasn't dating him when he died, though.
Okay, so we have someone that was dating River Phoenix. We have the
brother
my own private Idaho connection for.
Well, they were good friends as well.
Keanu. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would assume so.
IRL, they were good friends.
Sure. And
I
then
was
you've got his
obsessed with
brother.
River Phoenix as a child, so I sort of know a little bit of the goss.
Yeah,
and,
sure. That's
I
really
hate
interesting.
all the women that he dated. I don't really, but as a child, I was very jealous of them.
Sure.
Anyway.
It was a very, he was a really interesting personality, I think.
Yeah, I still think, I personally now, Joaquin is like 10 times more interesting to me. But yes.
Yeah, he's grown up to be really a very interesting actor. I like him a lot.
But okay, so Keanu Reeves gets what I think is the most famous line in Parenthood. Like, it's the most memeified line, which is the... you need a license to drive a car or to buy a gun or to go fishing, but they'll let any butt-reaming asshole be a father. I wish it wasn't butt-reaming, because I think it could have been a perfect line otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. But it's so perfect for him to describe him that way.
Yeah, because of course he seems like he's the only character in the film that they make objectively stupid.
Yes.
Like, and... for him to then come in with one of the most intelligent observations about, the accident of parenthood sometimes is wonderful.
Yeah.
And I love that he and Weist do get a relationship sort of by the end of it. And,
yes, it's really lovely.
And she's still cynical about it. Like, I love that line when Gary, played by Joaquin Phoenix, who's credited as Leaf at the time.
Yes.
And he's like... hey, you just saved their marriage. And she's like, I give it six months.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, but they seem fine. She's like, yeah, well, you know, sure,
it.
I just want you kids to be happy. Like,
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Keanu Reeves. I was just, when he came on the screen, I was just kind of like trying to understand his career trajectory is amazing. Like,
so this is Bill and Ted kind of territory. Like, but this is what we're getting
Bill
out
and
of
Ted's,
him.
I think, was 91, so maybe 90, or was it 80s?
Oh, I don't know. It could have been early 90s,
maybe
both
Bogus.
of them. Yeah.
Maybe Bogus was 90s and the first one was... Well, because there's not only that, because he also had... There's something else where he plays like that dumb...
There's a great Lawrence Kasdan film when he's... what's it called? I Love You to Death. Have you ever seen that?
No.
He and William Hurt play a couple of stoner murderers like that get hired to kill Kevin Kline. You have to watch this movie. It's so great.
That
Yep.
sounds really fun. Okay, so Bill and
great
Ted's was
VHS.
89.
Yeah.
So it's... Okay, so it's
So
very much...
same year. Like
it's
that was his year. You
That was
know?
his shtick.
That was
He
his
was doing,
premiere.
He was doing the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, like,
That was great.
That's our impersonation. Yeah, and now, but what's amazing is that it was only 3 or 4 years later. No, it was 2 years later that he was in Point Break.
Wow.
And then 3 or 4 years later, he's in Speed, and he is the biggest action star in the world. And
Yep.
he comes off as such a doofus. Like, he was the perfect surfer bro.
Yeah.
He did it so well. It
Yeah.
just amazes me that
And
someone
then-
saw that in him and went, no, this guy can be an action superstar.
Yeah, and he can also be a really terrible actor though as
Yes.
well. Like,
His choices are very interesting, but
Yeah.
I respect his choices because he's not afraid of anything.
and I get the allure. Like, I know why Gus Van Sant would have wanted to work with him. Well, I mean, he's a cute guy, but I mean, like, that's Gus Van Sant's reason for working with most guys. But what was the other one? Francis Ford Coppola cast him in
But
Bram
that
Stoker
for
as
me
well.
seemed like...
That was a really bad idea.
It was a terrible idea, but that
So
seems
bad.
like studio kind of, hey,
Oh, yeah.
he's the hot young thing, let's cast him.
Good
To
call.
me, that's more Keanu having the balls to go, do you know what? I know this is so far out of my depth, but I want to try it anyway. And he would just do it. He'd just
Yeah.
go, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll be in
Yeah,
Dracula,
yeah.
man. Well, let's give it a crack. And he's awful. Like,
Yeah, he's so
awful
bad.
in it.
He's so bad.
Him and Winona, I feel bad for Winona Ryder because I feel like she has the potential to be excellent when she's surrounded by people who are
with
also
the
excellent.
Right,
They lift her up
patronage. Yeah.
because she has the capabilities, but put her with Keanu and the two of them just it's so awful, the stuff that they do together in that film. Even though I love that movie. I think it's a wonderful movie.
Yeah. I haven't seen it in a while. I've always thought Gary Oldman was cute. I don't know. That's
Was cute.
Yeah. No.
Okay. Well, he spends like 3/4 of it as a hideous monster.
You know what
but
I loved him in? I know, but that's I've always loved the bad guys. What's it called? Leon the Professional. Like,
yeah,
I had
yeah.
such a crush on Gary Oldman in that
yeah,
movie.
he's bonkers in that movie. He's so crazy, isn't he?
Anyway,
and so someone must have seen something in Keanu.
hell yeah, and he gets like I don't know. He gets to be. He gets to be one of the best characters in this film, and despite I think now as well, it would be really hard to sell the sympathetic doofus unless it was in a really outlandish comedy. Like, you know, he's basically like Hot Rod, like, you know,
Yeah.
like he just wants to drag cars, and he loves his girlfriend, and he's an idiot. Like,
And he never You're right though, because it's in a worse movie, he would be even more almost like a slapstick foil of some description.
Yeah.
He's, even though he is a big doofus, he's actually it's kind of watered down from the Hollywood version of the doofus.
Definitely. And he has, you know, he does sort of have some dignity at the end. And of course he gets to have some laughs at other characters' expense as well, which is great. Anyway, I love that scene where she comes home and does the crying. This is Martha Plimpton to her mum. And then he runs in after her. And so they've been yelling at each other, and they're in the front yard, and Diane Weiss is like hitting him over the head with a newspaper. And he's like, yeah, blah, blah, oh, we got married, or she's pregnant, or whatever new revelation it is. And Diane Weiss turns around, just starts hitting the daughter with the newspaper instead. Like, it's just so, it's such
every
every
advancement of their relationship comes out in an argument that Diane Weiss overhears.
And it's just some
so
accident.
amazing.
And she's just like, oh.
Or something like, okay, so he says something like, I can't believe I married you or something.
Yeah,
and then later it's like, if you think I'm having this baby, you're at it.
If you think I'm having this baby.
That is, to move on to Diane Weiss, because she kills it in this film. She is so good. And
she had one Oscar at this point, I think.
For Bullets?
For Hannah and her sisters.
Okay.
She gets Bullets later, because Bullets is mid-90s, I think.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah. It's later.
Yeah, so I think she has the best... There is one scene that I think is the best acted scene in the movie, and that is straight after she finds out about that she's pregnant, and she has the little mini breakdown about, I'm not a grandma, I was at Woodstock... And it's only 30 seconds, but it blew.
I was at Woodstock, for Christ's sake. And he goes,
blew my mind.
So was I. She's like, oh yeah, I thought you looked familiar.
It's so like, it's wonderful. It's so wonderful. When
my scene is still the favorite when she's just at the door and she's screaming, like, and I have no life, and she jumps up and down in her heels, like, slam, slam, slam.
She's not in a lot of this film, but she's like, comparatively, I think she's probably featured about as much as maybe Tom Hulce is, I think, but she just makes such an incredible impact in her stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
That she's just so memorable,
Oh, no, she's definitely in it more than Tom Hulce, because she's got 3 scenes at least with just with Joaquin Phoenix, like, that great scene, like, when she has to go into his room and they all yell and all that stuff, and then he's like, I'm gonna go live with my dad for a while, and she just knows. She's like, all right, you're gonna have to realize this for yourself.
I kind of was a bit, not that I didn't like the writing of that scene. It was just I was sad that that's the way it had to go down. I was kind of like, God, I just it was so sad to watch that occur and to see her sit there and go, oh, fuck, I've got to let this happen. But it's so heartbreaking to see it happen. No, it is,
and he's so beautiful. And then when she's just like, she tries to sort of reach out for him, and he's just like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
And he it's
really nice bit of blocking in that, the way that she goes to get him and the way they place the table and the camera, and he gets to escape around her. It was really clever.
Yeah, and also that she just hears, like, he's like, oh, okay, and then he sort of crossed to her, and she's just like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and it's one of those one-sided conversations that isn't, when you, like, bad writers will go, what do you mean I can't do this?
Yeah.
And like stuff like that, where it's, that's just
you're busy next Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly. It's bad writing trying to write a one-sided conversation. It's a beautifully written one-sided conversation, because we get absolutely everything we need to know just from his very small reactions to it.
No, it's his other son. Oh,
that's heartbreaking.
It's so sad.
No, your other son.
Yeah.
Or no, it's because what's his name in it?
It's your other son, Gary.
Gary's son.
Yeah.
No, it's Gary. Yeah. Oh, it's just, oh God, because that he got on the phone and went, oh, hey, sport, blah, 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 to his other child. It's just awful. So good. Can I talk about Tom Hulce's character a little bit?
Yes. Okay.
So this is...
It's the darkest part.
It is the darkest part. And
the film.
And I'm not sure it gels with everything else, because I think what it does for Jason Robards works perfectly.
Definitely.
But I just... okay, so I had to kind of headcanon this a little bit in order to make it not seem ridiculous, is that I don't think anyone's trying to kill him.
Oh, okay. I think...
Because to me, if someone's actually trying to kill him, it's a different movie. It doesn't belong in this movie. It's too much, I think.
I don't know. Like, for me, the idea that he is, like, he's a hustler, he's a gambler, he's a bit of a shit kicker...
Yeah.
That he would get in trouble and be in a lot of trouble, it makes sense. I think that it's possible that there is a lie involved, because
I think he definitely owes that kind of money.
Like he doesn't. I think that he owes the money, but also he may not intend to pay it. He, you know, wants to jump on the next sort of whatever the opportunity is that he thinks is coming his way next or whatever. But
chili or whatever.
Oh, yeah. And he's like, oh, I'm into hydroponics. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's the growing of plants without soil.
Yeah,
and he's like, well, I don't know about
it
that. Some guy in a lab does that. I cut the deal. Like, it's like, you're a drug dealer.
You're a drug
okay.
dealer. Yeah.
Oh.
Why wouldn't you just make up something completely different? Because we're not all idiots.
But I think as well, I think that it's definitely not something that's ever covered in films very often. Although, I mean, maybe in docos, the idea of having a child that you just can't save, and that is
no. And look, that's I think the strongest element to
Yeah.
to his character is that we actually get a character that we say goodbye to without even coming close to redeeming, and I think that's really brave and really kind of rare in a film of this kind of this ilk.
And I love this scene when his son sits down and goes,
cool.
Cool, so cute. He
Breaks
goes,
my heart.
my dad's going away, and he's like, yes, would you like to stay with us? And he's like, is he coming back? And Robard says no.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know what, they could have written that as, yeah, he'll be back soon, even though we know he's not coming back soon. But he just says a plain no. Would you like to live with us?
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's a lot of honesty. But I mean, I really don't think the kid knows the father anyway.
No. I think it's, and that scene to me is it's more about it's Robard's. He's talking to himself more than anything else.
Yeah. But also, it's the thing of like, not only has this. Like his son's taking his money and sort of draining these resources, the energy with which he is sort of, has to try and the work that he has to do, the legwork to try and get him sort of on the straight and narrow. He's like, I will, you'll come and work for me and I'm not going to retire for a while. And, like all of this stuff is happening anyway.
Yeah.
Like he's given up this money and now it's like, oh, you've also been tasked with raising the child that he doesn't want. Like, for me, I just can't imagine anything more troubling to someone in their 60s than to be given a very young child to suddenly have to sort of do all of that over again. I mean, like it wouldn't be the worst thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, like that in itself is just like this whole other responsibility, and you just don't know it might happen like with your kids.
But I think this movie's way of a very, not obviously, but quite clearly stating and using the kind of the cycle of the process to demonstrate it even further is that being a parent never ends. And I think that's kind of really, if you had to pick a kind of a message of this film, I reckon that could be one that you could throw out there, is that parenthood is it's a never ending process.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's interesting as well that like Robards has to sort of figure out the relationship to Gil and to whatever Tom Hulce's character's name is, Larry. So he has to figure out, how he regards them. Obviously, he, that's part of his arc, is sort of being able to say to Steve Martin, like, you're a great father and you've done a really good job.
Yeah.
Which, we don't expect from him.
No.
But it's interesting though that like because he's got 2 daughters as well, and they don't have an issue. Like the parent, the other generation isn't part of their narrative, which is sort of funny. I mean, I guess it's a lot to write, but it's the boys that have a problem with the father. It's not.
I feel like that's just a trait that has forever been kind of exploited in any kind of fiction.
True.
Is men and their fathers. Kind of that relationship is always kind of a rich well, I think, for dramatic tension. I like as well that the great thing about Parenthood is that rather than making a film about someone trying not to be like their father, the very first scene is him saying, this is the life my father had, and I said to myself, I'm going to do better, and I'm going to have happy, confident children. Like,
And then it's like this whole film is just about good people trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is where all of its drama comes from. And it's like, I find that the cinema these days is so afraid to just, like, you know, they'd have to make a character really awful or make one of the characters really stupid or make really bad decisions. They're all making really good decisions.
Yeah, generally.
And they're all being
you're
very
right.
careful, and they all love each other. And it's just like, and that isn't necessarily going to work.
But I don't think it's not so much that they don't present a really awful person. It's just that they give us realistic versions of that.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays we'd exploit that. And so Tom Hulce would also
be snorting cocaine. Yes!
In the bathroom at
exactly.
at the family function or something. He couldn't just, or
he'd say a lewd comment, although he does say, if you weren't my sister, to Susan or whatever.
Yeah, but even then it's kind of like, I think it's meant to be endearing.
And I love that the girl, like the children look at each other like,
yeah. Yeah. But until he kind of reveals himself over the course of the film, you think that he will be redeemed. I think our opinion of him as a viewer gets stripped away the more we learn about him.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays, from the beginning, someone would come out and you'd be able to pick him as the asshole.
Yeah.
I don't think we picked him. I think we kind of, as a viewer, we saw, especially when he brings Cool in, we think that he's going to have this redeeming arc.
Yeah.
And so it's very strange when it doesn't come through that way, because he's not snorting coke in a bathroom.
No.
He's not, cheating on Cool's mum, who, is a quiet, underspoken kind of person, and then he's, sleeping with a stripper or something. And none of that happens.
No, he definitely seems a victim of some circumstances, and yet you can see that it's revealed later that these circumstances are his choosing.
Yes,
constantly.
and it's revealed because we see his manipulation. We can see it clearer than Jason Robards can at first, because it's just the way it's designed in the dialogue. So we can see it and we're like, oh, actually, no, he's a real piece of shit. Yeah, okay, right. I couldn't help but laugh when he gets thrown out of the car, though. Is that meant to be funny?
He's like, oh, just friends dropping me off.
And he gets up and just brushes himself off and walks inside. I'm like,
and he waves
kind
a
of funny?
bit.
I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
And then Jason Robards does a thing like a concerned look, like, what was that all about? And I'm like, dude, what do you mean? You know exactly what that's about.
Exactly.
There's no fooling anybody.
What do you think? Yeah. Anyway, I love Robards in this too. Like,
he took a little while to warm. I took a little while to warm to him. I think it's not really until when he takes Cool to show him the car.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was when I really started warming to him, because I love how he has the exact same conversation that he had with Tom Hulce about, it was junk when I first got it. First time I got laid in the back of this car.
Yeah.
And it was the same conversation with his his younger son, and now this 5-year-old kid, which I found really kind of...
He's like, whoop, that's a story for when you're older. Yeah. The thing is that I see him as... I think that he's not a villain by any means, but he's a problematic character. Like, clearly he's had a negative effect on Steve Martin. They make jokes about him being drunk at the wedding and, et cetera, et cetera. But it's when I like his arc of realizing that, his children have, like, particularly just with Gil, like, when he realizes and sort of says to Steve Martin, like, I'm asking your advice because you're a good father. And I'm just like, and Martin is like, I love him in that scene too, because he's so used to being sarcastic about his father that he doesn't know how to he doesn't know how to take him seriously, because their dialogue is typically like his dad being gruff and him being, making
you can feel the
remark.
kind of it's not that it's uncomfortable, it's that it's kind of like a new it's fresh, this kind of style of conversation between the two of them.
And
you
then
can definitely feel
Robards does this thing when he sort of grabs him and looks him in the eyes, and it's almost as if he's going to hug him or say I love you or something, and he just goes and like walks off. Like, he just waves his hand in his face. He's like, oh no, I
And
can't.
you're right,
like
because
it's too much.
a worse
like,
movie would,
but he
would-
says it all with his eyes just
Yeah.
then, and that's it's a very Manchester by the Sea scene, I think, which is. I'm not going to say what is really going on here, but you know what I mean. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
And that's a sign of screenwriters and a director that trusts its audience,
Absolutely.
which is pretty rare these days. Having said that, though, just to kind of juxtapose with that, we also get elements where I feel like they could have trusted us a little bit more.
Oh.
As in, I feel like the roller coaster metaphor gets played out a little bit too
yeah, but I still...
literally.
But that joke... that's the thing is that, like, she's like... she tells the story. The old Nana's like, life's a roller coaster. Some people don't like it. They just want to go round and round on the merry-go-round. But I like the roller coaster because it's exciting and, and it's scary and it's fun. And it's like, this is the metaphor for parenthood. And then, of course, what's her name? She's like, your grandmother's a really smart lady. And he's like, oh, wow, she just wowed me with her metaphor about, like, raising children in a roller coaster. She's sitting in the neighbor's car, or something like that.
Yeah, if she's so smart, why is she sitting in the neighbor's car?
And, like, they have this fight, and it's just like...
I liked that, I really liked that scene didn't end as we would have thought it would, because it felt like it was going to be here's the bow to tie it all up, and it didn't, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah, look, I don't love the roller coaster literal bit so much, but... I
think it achieved it really well regardless. I think the manicness of that scene led us to represent it really nicely.
You could take out the roller coaster audio, basically.
Yeah. Well,
even
exactly.
if you
or
could
even
just
if you
do
just
it
had
with
little,
the camera.
just
like,
little elements, maybe one or the other. Maybe little elements of the camera movements or little elements of the audio just kind of creeping in here and there. Something that, because it does get a little bit kind of like, it's cool, Ron. We were on board. We're on board with the metaphor.
At that point, I am just laughing, crying again.
I was absolutely in hysterics at that kid when he says, hey, they're hurting my sister.
They hurt my sister.
I was losing it. That was absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, dear.
Absolutely gorgeous.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is. And this is, look, we're going to have to wrap it up. But... yeah, this is probably what I took away from the film the most, is that it's just... there aren't enough movies anymore where you just fall in love with the people that are in that movie and you just want to spend more time with them. And it usually takes a very well-written television show over 3 or 4 seasons to give you that feeling. This movie achieves it in... just a smidge over 2 hours, and that's pretty rare, really.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's that you got a film that's written in a way that you've got people who are, like you or I, just trying to do good. Yeah. And that has all of the comedy and drama and sadness and joy that you need is just a simple, like, here's me going about a normal day. Sure. And it works. I also just want to shout out quickly to the birthday party scene, which when the stripper shows up instead and Martin freaks out and then just puts on, like, cuts the rug up literally.
Yeah, his costume is so great.
It's so incredible. Yeah. And it's just like, this is the lengths that this guy will go to to point of injury and humiliation. Absolutely. Just to give his kid one great day. It's
but even the movie understands that there is no cheap fixes in that, because we have the conversation where Mary Steenburgen even says, what did you just think, you're going to dress up like a cowboy and everything's going to be fine?
It's like, or just like, you threw all those pop-ups to him in the backyard, like, what did you think? Of course he was going to catch one.
Exactly. And we get to enjoy these beautiful moments, but also understand that they're just moments and they don't fix what are quite lifelong problems.
That's it. And I mean, you just love them for trying anyway.
No, and that's it. Because they want to try.
Yeah, there's no resolution. It's just like, this is what parenthood is. It's you're going to keep trying. Like,
and it's really like, no movie has ever made me want to call my parents more. Like when I was watching, I was like, I need to call my mum and dad. Like, and it's like that, the way that just can for someone who's not a parent, gives me a perspective on parenting that I just don't think I'd seen before, really.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
you know is there, and you know it's part of it. And if you want to understand that, I would say that I knew that is in existence, but I've never seen it so eloquently kind of put.
Yeah,
I think.
And without being it is just such a pro-parenthood film. Like, there's like nothing compares to this kind of joy of like bringing a new child into the world and being with family or like growing families. And I mean, like, yeah, I don't know. I haven't got children either, but I don't know. I watch this film. It has to have something to do with wanting them, like, or even just, I mean, for me as well.
If there's ever a film that makes you want to have kids.
Oh, hell yeah. And
sure.
the fact that everyone has a baby at the end, it's just like, it's like their little trophies, Anyway, I mean, look, personally, like I was raised partly in a sort of single mother situation.
Sure.
And so like for me, Weast and, my mum yelling and trying to make sure my brother's happy and, keeping him out of trouble and try not to ignore my sister. Like, it's that sort of balance. It plays out. There's a lot of it that I sort of see my own family in too.
Sure.
And it's I don't know. It's just one of my favorite films. I could watch it. I'll laugh. I'll cry.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I can honestly say that I'm definitely going to be returning to this film. I just love this. This is my favorite kind of like 5 or 6 years of movies for some reason. I love the way movies looked at this time.
Yeah.
It feels like a movie to me.
I just read today that it was shot in Florida. I had no idea.
Oh, no, I didn't
it
notice
looked
that.
very Floridian.
No.
I assumed LA, but
well, there you go. It's the look, it's the score, it's the credits, it's the cast. This is where it's that grain on the film. It's just everything about it is what I remember growing up watching movies was, and the movies that I watched the most.
And the way they dress,
the way they dress,
in, like, white pants and like colored shirts and
100%.
Yeah.
So this will kind of sit nicely for me within all those kind of viewings that I go back to, I think. Because I really had a great time watching this film. So I'm so glad that you chose it out of my list of baby-related
Yeah. I didn't even read, to be perfectly honest, he put it at the top of the list and I didn't read any of the other films.
I don't think it was at the top of the list. I think that's how much you love this movie.
Yeah,
all
I saw was Parenthood. And I was like, I don't know what else you suggested, but
no,
Parenthood.
it doesn't matter.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. I think it was like Baby Mama was on that list, I think.
Oh, yeah. No, I wouldn't. No.
That's a Steve Martin
As a
movie.
baby movie. Oh, Three Men and a Little Baby.
Three Men
that
and a
would have
Baby
been
was one I was thinking about.
Okay,
I didn't write it because I couldn't find it anyway. So.
Good call.
So, just as a little kind of wrap up, Ron Howard. What else do we like about him? Anything else? This is because I don't love him, and I've tried to find. I think he's only really made. Well, I'm fresh to this, so I won't call it as. I won't say that I think it's as good as Apollo 13 because I'm very new to it. I need to let it sit. But I feel like Apollo 13 is the only movie that I genuinely love that he's directed.
I feel like this is the one for me. I think that he happens to come in and he's in a whole lot of these different phases that occur. So he's part of the Amblin-y Cocoon.
He's definitely had
Spielberg,
phases, for sure.
The magical realism comedy, and I don't know. I like him generally. I swear there's a film that I've seen recently that I really like of his, and I just can't remember what it is.
Well, recently because I feel like he's
doing all of the Dan Browns with what's his name, which I'm not interested in.
No, and they're pretty awful. I've seen the first two, and I have no interest in seeing Inferno.
Is that even out yet?
Yeah, it came out last year to very little. No one gave a rat's ass. I mean, you've got him trying to do. I don't know if he's trying to do prestige or if he's trying to get back to his kind of adventure roots. But you've got things like In the Heart of the Sea and Rush, which I haven't seen.
Two Hemsworth-helmed films that.
So obviously he must enjoy working with him. Otherwise he wouldn't have returned. I wouldn't think, Hemsworth.
Well, he's done a couple of films with Crow as well, and
yes.
Although I can only think of Cinderella Man right now.
Beautiful Mind.
Beautiful Mind. Yep.
Which is not a.
Well, it's fine.
It's fine. It's
yeah,
fine. It's Oscar Beatty kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like Ransom, but I can't call it a great film. It's trash, but it's really well made trash.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know. I don't mind him. There are things that he can do. I don't think that he's not distinctive, which
I was just about to say there is no definable quality to a Ron Howard
which makes him
movie.
hard to love. But then again, someone like Soderbergh is indistinct as well, and whatever he brings to
that's
something,
really interesting.
I find so magical.
I find I can pick a Soderbergh film within 5 seconds of watching it.
Okay, I can pick a Soderbergh film like post 2005 really quickly because I think that his aesthetic changed.
Yeah, sure.
But previous to that, no.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
I'll say pre 2000.
Yeah. Okay, pre 2000.
Yeah, I think Traffic.
Okay,
Traffic, Aaron Brockovich, all that kind of.
What's it called? But even Traffic, I don't think.
Really?
Oh, but I mean, it is because I know it is. But,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, the Oceans, the post Oceans. I've just got my hair stuck in my hand. But yeah, I mean, this it happens to be one of my favorite films that Ron Howard's directed. So that has to mean something.
And it's probably worth it. Look, it is worth going back and watching a few of these other ones. I've never seen like The Paper before, and I feel like that would be something I would enjoy.
I've heard it's really good.
Yeah,
actually, that's a good point. I want to go back on. Well, I've never seen it, but I want to watch that too.
And I'll just, as a little shout out, I quite enjoy the Missing, the 2003 kind
I like
of
that too.
Weird.
My sister
thriller,
spoiled it
I
for me
guess?
though, but I thought it was pretty good.
If it, like the atmosphere in that film,
It's a horror film. Like,
do you want to call it a horror film?
Yeah, like I mean, it's like I guess it's a thriller, anxiety. But it's a what do you call it? Post-apocalyptic kind of.
No, because it's set in like the Old West.
Oh,
Are
I've
we
got
thinking
the
of
wrong
the same
film.
movie?
No. Please ignore everything I just said. I haven't seen that.
The Kate Blanchett horror. It's kind of like a horror thriller where
I haven't seen it.
some Native Americans steal her daughter in the Old West, but it's all really moody and creepy. And
that is weird. I
yeah,
had no idea.
Tommy Lee
I've never even
Jones,
heard
isn't
of
it?
that movie.
Okay, it was really something.
Okay.
I think Val Kilmer pops up in it as well.
Oh yeah.
What are you thinking of?
Never. No, I'm not going to say.
No, tell me.
No, I don't want to say it. Never mind. Does he have a franchise other than the what's it called?
Not that I could say.
Not a damn. Okay.
No.
I'm always interested in the franchise guys.
I think on paper he was a really good choice for that, and somehow made Da Vinci Code, which is like it's not a work of bloody master of genius at all.
No,
the book, but it's entertaining. Like it's a real fucking page turner.
The first film was fun as well too, but
I just found it kind of really dry and just kind of took a lot of what made the book so readable wasn't in the film. And that's weird for a guy who, I think if you something like Ransom, which is incredibly exciting, Apollo 13, you're on the edge of your seat. He obviously knows how to make momentum. He knows how to control momentum and energy.
Yeah.
And Da Vinci Code didn't seem to really have much of that.
No.
So it's, I'd like to see, and, he's made like The Dilemma, which is apparently rubbish, this Vince Vaughn and Kevin James comedy.
Ron Howard directed that?
Yeah. So he's in an interesting kind of place at the moment, I think.
Yeah, I'd say so. Anyway, I guess maybe it's the fact that he was parodied on The Simpsons in that wonderful Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger episode. That maybe there's just there's something about Ron Howard. And I mean, look, maybe Apollo 13 and Parenthood are his best films, but maybe he has more good films than
I think
a lot of other directors
I think he
do.
does.
Yeah,
I think he does. I would agree with that. Absolutely. All right. That's our conversation on Parenthood.
Please watch it.
That was really fun.
Yeah, it was fun. I didn't cry, which I'm really glad about too.
While we were talking about it.
Yeah, I nearly thought if I went too far in,
I feel you.
I would choke up. So
yeah, when we were briefly talking about the kid at the end, I was pretty close.
Yeah, and I don't know.
That's my sister. That kid
crying.
that bit nearly had me because that was to me like because that kid was so like they gave him he got a hard rap during that movie, and to see that he was just so like that's family in one sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Well, look, thank you very much for having me back.
Oh, of course. We're not quite done just yet.
Oh, we're not. Yay!
We got to cross some streams.
Oh, this is fun. Okay.
This is fun. Do you want to go first? There's our guest of honor.
All right. Well, look, the obvious one that I have to talk about is on Stan.
Yes.
It comes out every week consecutively. It's not RuPaul's Drag Race. It is Twin Peaks: The Return. Only the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life.
That's
really sorry. It's
that's
not
fine.
true. But
it's not true.
No, it's not, because I'm so loyal to The Sopranos that I'll just never.
Okay, sure.
I don't. But oh my gosh, am I impressed and thrilled,
Great.
and I'm enjoying it so much. Like it's like watching 5 beautiful films at once for me. Like
Excellent.
It's so intense. But yeah, so obviously giving Twin Peaks a plug. Forget the original series. If you haven't watched it, don't even feel bad about it. Just go and start watching the new one, particularly if you're a Lynch fan, because this is the film that you've been waiting for from him.
It's been a while.
For a long time. And I can't believe that I've never given the credit to Kyle MacLachlan that he deserves, because he is just so splendid in this show, and I'm laughing so much. I'm terrified. I am mystified by this program.
Does it? Yeah. Look, I haven't watched the entirety of the first season. I think I've only maybe watched 4 or 5 episodes. But what I found really interesting about it was the way that it made me feel quite unsettled.
Yeah.
Like, and that's David Lynch in a nutshell. He can present very normal things, but for some reason you feel really uncomfortable while they're occurring. Does this carry? That's kind of what's happening in this new one as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the new season is a lot funnier. I
don't remember ever laughing in watching the original stuff.
Well, I guess the original show was it had a lot of strange sort of character moments, and that the characters were very caricaturish, and it's interesting to watch that play out in the today. They're not hiding the iPhones or anything like that. Like this is the contemporary world, and he brings this wonder to. There's a great this week's episode. There's a Skype conversation that happens.
Okay,
and there's a conversation about like, do you have Skype? All right, I'm gonna Skype you so that we can talk. And the way that this is unpacked is just incredible, and it's so simple, but it's all these little tricks. Like I had no idea, and I've never been a huge Lynch fan. Like I'll be the first to admit it. I'm not. I think Mulholland Drive's great. I like Blue Velvet. And that's about it. Like I haven't seen a lot of the films either. I went and saw Inland Empire at the cinemas, which was a mistake, I think. But I mean, now that I'm watching this, though, I'm like, it's as though I'm finally getting all of this, this great Lynch stuff. Just every scene has its own magic. Okay, sorry, I'm so obsessed, but I think it's really great.
No, I'm so it's really great to hear, because I especially the part about not having to watch the rest of the original season.
I just say don't, because I don't really remember anything after when you find out who killed Laura Palmer in the second season. And I think
I don't even know.
Everyone says like the show gets crap after that.
Yeah, apparently it goes way down.
And no one, I just didn't pay any attention. So
it apparently becomes really, 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 really Lynch. Like it indulges all of the crazier elements to Lynch, and almost to the point where it just becomes bonkers.
But he had left for a lot of that as well. So he came back.
So maybe it's someone doing
end.
a bad
That's it.
imitation of Lynch.
Yeah, it's weird.
Which is a terrible idea.
I will just mention one other thing.
Yeah, of course you can.
Sully.
Oh, okay. Yes.
The Clint Eastwood film.
Sure.
Which was
up on Netflix or something.
No, it's up on Stan.
Stan. Okay.
So that was one of my favorite films last year.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. I just think, again, it's about someone doing the right thing, and that is a problem somehow to someone else.
Sure.
And I think the story is fascinating of the Hudson River water landing, and it's peak Tom Hanks. Like, he is just so effortless now, and so
that is a great word to describe what he is all about. He is effortless.
Yeah, and this gentle, sort of strong, I don't know, loving kind of thing that he has going on. Anyway, he's really good in it. It's a beautiful little script. I remember seeing it in the theaters and I was gasping and clapping at scenes of people just sitting around talking. Like, it was so... I don't know. I'm a big Eastwood fan, and I know that whatever his politics, people don't agree with. I'm like, fine, but I just think that he's making a kind of movie that is very distinct at the moment, and...
It's very...
And it's never as...
He makes movies that almost would have been made in the late 90s, I think.
Yeah, and the thing is they're not as didactic as, say, Mel Gibson's Hacksaw Ridge.
Sure.
Like, I think that Hacksaw took the place of Eastwood in the Oscar sort of season, like, as the sort of conservative man doing the best he can kind of thing, which there's always one of them every year.
Yep.
But I think that Sully sort of didn't get the accolades that it deserves, that people...
No, it didn't. It got buried a bit towards the end.
Yeah, and people get very sensitive about, I don't know, he went crazy at a chair once or something. I've never seen that video. I never intend to watch it. But yeah, I just think that the Eastwood can do some real magic sometimes.
Great.
And...
I agree completely.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's it. I just want to say that's now on Stan. So if you didn't get a chance to see it at the cinemas, you can stream it.
Excellent. Yes, I've been meaning to watch that because I do enjoy Clint Eastwood's direction a lot. I think he definitely knows how to direct a film.
That is refreshing because a lot of people are always like, no way am I getting on board with Eastwood. So, yeah, leave your Eastwood problems at the door. That's all I have to say.
I would say it's probably similar to my Mel Gibson thing.
Yeah.
I think it's like sometimes you've just got to be able to acknowledge the work. And, you know, you can have, I think you can separately acknowledge someone maybe not being a very nice person, but still creating excellent art. And you don't have to celebrate them as a person. You can still celebrate the art.
Absolutely. I'm a giant Woody Allen fan. Perfect example.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well,
what are you watching?
I am going to recommend on Amazon Prime Video.
Whoa, Amazon Prime.
Yes. It's good. It's cheap. It's only like
good,
$3.99 or $4.99 a month.
So we get it here?
Yeah, you can get it here. The selection isn't great, but it's the only way you can watch stuff like American Gods and things like that, which I've been watching, which is great.
No, that's great. I'm so pleased that we have access to
Yes,
that.
we do. But like I said, the movie selection is not great. But it just so happens that this movie that I actually wanted to recommend this week is only on Amazon Prime. It's not on any of the other ones. And it's because we lost a film director this week. Someone who's perhaps not exceptionally well regarded aside from a few films.
I don't know who it is.
It's John G. Avildsen, who directed Rocky.
I literally don't know who it is.
Sure.
But I know Rocky.
Yes.
Great film.
It is a great film. And he passed away. He's quite old, so it's not like it was this great tragedy that he passed away. But it just gives us an opportunity to shine light on a film that I think a lot of people think is a bit trashy, but when you go back to it, it's actually really quite a fantastic film. And that's The Karate Kid. The first Karate Kid. He directed all three to diminishing results. By the third one, it's kind of like a parody of itself, but it's
even the Hilary Swank one.
Did not direct the Hilary Swank one.
Okay,
no,
yeah.
He directed 1, 2, and 3. The first movie is an exceptionally good film, and it kind of gets lumped in with. It's become like a meme in itself. It's sweep the leg. It's
wax on, wax
off. It's all that kind of stuff. It's really
Daniel-san.
Daniel-san. It's exactly. It's really just a beautiful movie about a boy who has no father figure who finds one in a very strange place that he never expected it to.
Now tell me, with Karate Kid, because the sequel takes off immediately after.
Immediately after, yes.
Now, did they film them at the same time?
No, that was a couple of years later.
Right.
So, oh God, I've forgotten his fucking name.
Daniel something.
What's his name?
I don't remember.
Ralph Macchio.
Ralph Macchio.
Ralph Macchio had an incredible ability to look like he never aged until he was about 45, and then all of a sudden he aged a bunch. Because it was actually almost, I think, about 8 years in between 1, 2, and 3, and they're all like within days of each other.
That's so cool. Yeah, I remember my dad being like, he was like 27 when he made the last one.
Yeah, or actually, then the third one is a year later. But it encompasses a lot of time.
Yeah, but I was like, 27? Because he told me this when I was a child. And I'm just like, that's so old.
How could he be playing a 16 or 18-year-old?
How could he look that young?
He got away with it, man. But that first, look, the second and third ones, I love them for what they are because they're such an important part of my childhood. But the first one is legitimately a good film. And it's got some really excellent stuff going in. And you forget that Pat Morita was nominated for an Oscar for his role.
Oh, I did forget that.
He is incredibly good. And this is something that I think, despite maybe not directing a whole heap of films that people are going to look back on with huge amounts of fondness, he was very good with actors. I think that was something that he did quite well. And, you've got something like Sylvester Stallone. It's his best performance, and it will probably remain that way. It'll be very hard to see him top what he did in Rocky.
True.
And to have this kind of teen action drama feature somebody who was nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah.
A man of who doesn't speak a lot in the film, and when he does, it's in broken English. I think it kind of speaks to his ability to really direct a performance.
But I like Karate Kid's a very Nick Tys videotape film.
Yeah,
I hope you guys will talk about it.
We will definitely talk about it one day, for sure. If only so that I can talk about part 3 and the ridiculousness of part 3, where the villain becomes like a cartoon character. It's so out of control.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. But yeah, so that's on Amazon Prime. Get on it. Just enjoy a good old 80s action drama and some kids kicking some heads in.
Cool.
Good times. Hey, that's going to wrap us up for this week, Jemima.
Oh.
Oh.
I feel like no time has passed.
Barely any time has passed.
Yeah, this is a 5-minute episode.
It's exactly right. And having said that, I don't even have anything to plug for next week because I don't know what's going to happen yet. We might have Nick back. We might not.
Oh, that's a good point.
So,
it'd be so cute if we can hook a microphone up to baby.
Oh, to a little baby.
As well.
Oh,
Baby Fest podcast.
I like this movie. This is a good movie.
Or I can just come in and pretend to be his child. Yeah.
The psyche of the baby.
Sure. I've impersonated Nick. I may as well impersonate
Look
his
Who's Talking.
son or daughter.
Which was the one that had was it who was it in Look Who's Talking 2 when it had Bruce Willis doing the boy and was it Roseanne doing the girl?
It may have been Roseanne Barr, yeah.
That can be like what you can do.
That's it, except that it's a podcast, so
we don't need the baby.
I could pretend to be the television for all that it matters,
Yes, it's true.
Or a book. Anyway.
There are books in here.
Yeah.
But Jemima, I must say thank you so much for coming in and helping us out this week.
It was my pleasure. I'm so glad that you asked.
No, of course.
I love swinging in and feeling like I've rescued, I haven't really done anything that's ridiculous. But please have me back.
Of course. The podcast would not have gone on without your assistance. So
wonderful.
I cannot thank you enough. And all our fans are no doubt very grateful that they get their Nick Tyson videotape fix again.
Yes.
This time, Jemima Tyson videotape.
Should we wrap it up with me pretending to be Nick? I just don't know. I can't remember his sign-off.
Our sign-offs are generally just an awkward bye.
Yeah, so...
well, before we do any of that,
yeah?
You're getting ahead of yourself, Jemima.
Oh, okay.
People can find us in all kinds of places.
Yeah.
iTunes, leave us a rating and review. TuneIn Radio, Stitcher Radio. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter. We've been, again, having some wonderful correspondence with fans on the Facebook page, and we love it. We love it to death. Don't forget to, if you want to email us, suggest a film. We did have a suggestion for a film, but we're going to save that for when Nick comes back.
All right. You had one suggestion?
Yeah, well,
right.
The one that we wanted to do.
I've given you like 8 suggestions this episode, but okay, yeah.
It's true. It's true. But that's the nature
I'm sorry,
of the by
I didn't
request.
email them to you.
Exactly.
I will
they need
email.
to be emailed.
Email. What's the email though,
The
Tys?
email is nicktysonvideotape@gmail.com. If you email us, we can decide whether or not we want to talk about the film that potentially we could. We are going to talk about Pump Up the Volume, which was recommended, which was suggested by a viewer. That was requested, and we will definitely be getting that once Nick comes back. But until then, we're going to leave you in the dark a little bit, and just you'll find out probably over Facebook or on Twitter. So jump on, like us, follow us.
Stay tuned.
That's it. You get all the information you need. Hey, Jemima, thanks so much.
Thank you.
I've had a ball. We'll
All
see you
right.
next time.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.
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 Is it good night? Yeah.
Just an
Damn.
enthusiastic bye, bye, bye. I think that's what Nick does.
All right.
You ready?
Bye.
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 See ya.